I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and welcome to The Sidebar, a weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today we're talking with Michael Bollinger of the Bartlett Performing Arts Center, so stay with us for a conversation with Michael. Michael, thanks for being here.
It is my great pleasure, and it's also a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
As I told you when I walked in, I'm just really a big fan of you and like the Daily Memphian and what you do on WKNO TV. And at any rate, it's great to meet you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks so much. And so you are the director of, we'll call it BPACC, right? We call it
that's
BPACC.
fine. Yeah.
I don't know where to start exactly. BPACC is 25 years old now. You've been there for 7 years.
And actually, its actual first official performance was September the 10th of 1999 with Art Garfunkel.
Oh, wow.
Now, I wasn't here then, but I understand that exact same night, this was during the period when Simon and Garfunkel weren't speaking. And as I understand, that exact same night, Simon was playing across town somewhere. So Simon and Garfunkel were here September the 10th, 1999, just not together.
Yeah, they're at BPACC. So in the 7 years, again, you've been there 7 years and 25 years old. How have things evolved? And you've been in this profession at many other places. And we'll talk to you about your background some more. When you look at 25 years, how have things changed? How have they not changed?
Well, first it started very slowly with low attendance. Right. And then if you can look back at our entire season, all of the shows we've done, except for our outdoor Music by the Lake concerts, all the artists are on there, and it's like 380 or something like that over the years. Yeah. And it's quite an array of artists, but it took a while for them to find their direction, but they're doing really well. The first director, a fellow named Ron Jewell, he used to be at the Hollywood Center. Yeah, he just retired. He's down in Florida now, I understand. At any rate, he was there from the beginning through like spring of 2015. And then for about a year and a half, they had either an interim director or just no director, know. And at that period, the attendance really took a slide down. And then I came in December the 5th of 2016, and we've greatly grown it since that time. The thing about the Bartlett Performing Arts Center, because when I first got there, a lot of people were like, "Oh, so just people from Bartlett come?" And
well, that was going to be one of my questions.
No, because they didn't have a computerized box office system when I got there. It was the kind where all the tickets are on the wall for all the shows, But my first year, we added a computerized box office system so that you could actually buy your tickets at home online in your pajamas. Fancy idea, you know. Yeah. And that's really turned out great. We still have a regular box office, But during that time, the attendance has greatly grown. The number of performances that we do has grown from when I came in. And I would say probably because of the box office system, we can tell our most popular zips. Yeah. So, I would say probably 55, 60% are from all the Bartlett zips. But all the rest of them at any given performance are from all around the Mid-South. Yeah. Memphis, all the burbs, down into Mississippi, down into, eastern Arkansas. And if we really have a big artist, like, for instance, Crystal Gale that we've got coming up, it's not unusual to have people that drive in from New Orleans.
Really? And make a weekend out of coming to the Memphis area.
We're going to make a weekend of it, drive in from Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah. Now, that's not for every show. Sure. But I've had it before. Yeah. And when I first got here, I don't hear it much anymore, but they were like people that lived in Memphis, like, "Oh, man, that's so far up there." Well, no,
Bartlett
it isn't. Your radio station here is like really close to the river, right?
Yes. Yes.
So from Bartlett, from BPACC, it took me 32 minutes to get here today.
Yeah, I'm surprised it took that long. It is funny.
That's probably because I'm a pokey driver and I'm like, I don't want to miss the turnoff.
It is a funny thing about Memphis. There are places you can drive pretty far, but as somebody who grew up, now I go up to Seattle a fair amount because I grew up in that area and I lived in New York, and it's like I had friends in Atlanta. It's like we're spoiled in terms of traffic.
And you can do stuff like just get on Summer and take it straight up if you don't want to get on the highway, but otherwise otherwise, just take Highway 40 straight to the Wolf Chase Galleria, Germantown exit, and I'm like, 4 miles away.
Right. So talk about some of the other performances coming up. You mentioned Crystal Gale.
For this year? Yeah. Well, we just opened this last weekend with the Neil Diamond Legacy Concert. Now, I do about 3 or 4 tribute concerts a year, and I preface that because I don't want people to go, oh, he's just like a casino, because there are a ton of bad tribute artists out there. I mean, there are, you know what I mean?
Sometimes that's the fun. I mean,
no,
honestly,
it is, yeah.
Maybe not for BPACC.
Yeah, like the Beatles tribute. Hello, I'm Paul. But what I look for, first, really great musicians. Second, that whoever the lead vocal is, that's what you really pay attention to the most and remember the most. And if you close your eyes, you'll go, oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's Neil Diamond. But the other thing is I try not to bring in artists that act like Neil Diamond. They just do homage to their music. Maybe they dressed in the style and maybe they dressed in the period.
So it's not an impersonator.
No, but he's not trying to impersonate.
Yes.
But if you close your eyes, I'm telling you what, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's Neil Diamond up there.
Right.
And we only seat, the neat thing about BPACC is we only have 350 seats.
Yeah.
So if you're in the back row, it's like they're in a big living room with you, and we actually added a second performance and basically sold out 2 shows just on Saturday night.
Again, for everyone listening, we're talking to Michael Bollinger. He's the director of the Bartlett Performing Arts Center. Where other shows coming up?
Yeah, just coming this Friday. Mm-hmm. This coming Friday, we have Theater by the Lake, which we just started last year. And what I mean by that, if you've never been to BPACC, when you're facing it, on the left of it is a nice green area, but we have this little lake called Lake Appling that surrounds the theater. And we put up a stage all the way at one end, backed by a bunch of cedar trees, and the audience sits up, and there are food vendors and stuff. So we started a partnership with the Tennessee Shakespeare Company, and they're excellent.
Yeah, they really are.
They're really exceptional. I can't say enough about them.
Yeah.
They did Macbeth last year, but this year they're doing The Tempest, a much lighter piece. And what they do is, though, they edit it. Because, most Shakespeare shows, if you really did, the whole show's 3 hours.
Yeah.
So they edit it to where it's a 90-minute show without intermission.
Yep.
And so they're and it's free. So it's out on our green. Just bring a chair and a blanket. We'll have like kettle corn and coffee and hot chocolate and stuff like that out there. And if it rains, although it's supposed to be
You're gonna jinx it.
It's supposed to be a nice day. But the nice thing is, my theater's right next door. We just move inside the theater.
Oh,
we never cancel.
Yeah.
We never cancel any of our Music by the Lake or Theater by the Lake. Coming up the end of the month are Morgan Miles and Jay Allen. They are 2 up-and-coming country stars. Well, they will be stars, I think, but they're rising stars.
Yeah.
But they did really well on The Voice season 2022.
Okay.
And they're not partners. They're not married. They're not dating, but they were on the show together and got to be friends. So sometimes a theater will have both of them in.
Gotcha.
So that's what I'm doing. Like Morgan will do her set. We'll take a little break. Jay do his set, and then they'll end up with a few songs together. So
you mentioned 22, which starts to remind me of COVID, and I'm curious what did you do during COVID, how have things changed since COVID?
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah,
because I was doing. I think it was. We do a full-scale youth theater production every year, professionally directed, but with kids like 6th grade and up, right?
Yeah.
And it was The Little Mermaid, and literally, when New York. Because we were like, okay, well, everybody's kind of watching what New York was doing, and then he was like, okay, we're gonna block it to you can only have 500 people in the audience. The next day it was like 300. The next day it was like 150, and then it was like no 100.
Yeah,
you can do no 100.
We're done.
And the mayor at that time, Mayor McDonald, calls me and goes, "What are we going to do about this?" And I said, "Mayor." This was on like a Monday or a Tuesday. I said, "Mayor, I'm asking you." I mean, these kids have worked on this for 3 months, and we have a lot invested in it, sets, costumes, all this stuff, and they preview in 2 days.
Yeah.
And their shows are this weekend. So I'm asking you, and we can have everybody wear masks and everything, to let us just finish this weekend
Was this in March?
It was in March. It was that week in March. And he let us finish it.
Yeah.
And then basically for the entire rest of March, other than one outdoor concert in the fall, and even that we socially distance. I had the Bartlett Parks and Rec Department, you know that old game Twister?
Yeah.
Spray paint 10-foot circles in different colors all on my green.
And those were the pods that people could
with 8 feet
virtual
between.
Pods. Yeah.
And they could handle 8 people in each circle, and we did an outdoor concert with 2 popular bands, and it was like, it was totally filled up because everybody was ready to do something. Oh, yeah, because everybody was desperate for something, right. But then, so really, the whole rest of the year, we were down for the count. Now, when it happened, March of 2020, I was like, okay, well, we're going to be out for the rest of the spring, so we canceled everything. But we'll be able to start our 2021 season.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to happen. So I had scheduled one, and then I had to cancel everything in the fall. But I'm not the only one. All the other theaters in the area had to do that, you know. But then in January of 21, I was the first theater in the Mid-South in Memphis to actually resume concerts. It was a deal I did with the Shelby County Health Department, and what the deal was, everybody, my staff, my crew, and the audience had to wear masks to watch in the show.
Yeah.
And I had to socially distance. So I have 350 seats. How many do you think I could get in the theater?
100?
You're pretty close. Yeah. 95.
Yeah.
95, And if it wasn't for my sponsors, we couldn't have done that,
Yeah.
But what I did with most of them was we did 2 shows, which still didn't equal a sold-out one show.
Right.
But we did like a 3 o'clock and a 7:30 at night. So at least we had a season, like 2 shows a month for that whole winter and spring. And I thought that was important rather than being like a ship way out in the ocean and your motor, you can't, you're stuck, you know.
Did you do any virtual stuff? Or was it not worth it? It's hard. It was hard.
Yeah, I thought about it briefly. But, honestly, by the time and most people, I think, unless it's like a really big artist, Paul Simon or whatever, whoever, Ed Sheeran, but most of them did not have strong participation from the audience at home. And I was like, all that's going to be, which is like we're already losing money.
Yeah, so now we're going to spend all this AV. And people sort of think because they have fancy phones, it's really easy to do this. But no, you got to, it's a huge effort.
Well, not if you want to do it good.
Yeah,
you got to get a good videographer. You got to have good sound.
Yeah.
You got to have good lights. So it's not just like they go sit on stage and do the thing,
Yeah.
And then we did a mini MINI winter season in 21. Then 21, 22 season. My seasons are fall, winter, spring. Then we did like a full season, but not quite as ambitious with the name artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people were very and people, anyway, in the fall we still had to socially distance, but by like the January of 22.
Yeah.
We opened it up.
Yeah.
Now everybody had to wear a mask, but they were getting a little used to it. And by the fall of 22, 23, we did it. Like you could wear the mask if you want. Yeah. You could not wear the mask if you want. And about half of the audience were very trepidatious. And now it's back to pretty regular.
It is. It is. That's good.
Yeah. I think I saw out of 700 people that saw the show Saturday night, I think I saw maybe, not even a dozen that were wearing a mask.
Gotcha. Let me take a minute here. We're here with Michael Bollinger of Bartlett Performing Arts Center. But let me also do some housekeeping real quick. A reminder, I'm Eric Barnes, and this is The Sidebar. It airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30. Focused on the community, arts, culture, everything in between. It is not just a radio show, though. It's also one of many weekly podcasts we do at the Daily Memphian, including the Behind the Headlines podcast that we do with the folks over at WKNO. Bill Dries and Sam Hardiman do a politics podcast, On the Record. We do a Memphis Grizzlies podcast with Chris Harrington and Drew Hill. And Chris Harrington, often with Holly Whitfield, does our food podcast, Soundbites, which also airs here on WYXR every Thursday at 11, right before the sidebar. All of our podcasts are on the Daily Memphian site, as well as iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can get the WYXR shows, the sidebar and the food show Soundbites, at WYXR.org, or you can go to the WYXR app. And that includes all the WYXR shows, both talk and music. WYXR just celebrated its 3rd anniversary, which is crazy. And it is a nonprofit, listener-supported radio. So if you can support WYXR by becoming a member, by donating, just go to the app or go to WYXR.org to do that. I should also say the Daily Memphian, which just celebrated its 5th anniversary, is a nonprofit. It is very much supported by your paid subscription. So if you're not a paid subscriber, please do consider becoming one. Or if you are a paid subscriber and you want to support us, you can donate at www.dailymemphian.com. I mentioned our 5th year anniversary. As part of that, we've had a number of podcasts focused on the 5 years. We've got 3 editors, Holly Whitfield, Mary Casciola, and Jane Donahoe, coming on, I think, next week to talk about 5 years. Andy Cates, one of the co-founders of this place and the board chair and friend of mine, we did 2 episodes talking about what we could remember of the pre-launch, launch, and the 5-year history. Dan Conaway, columnist, and also did all the branding. He came on. Our tech team came on, which was one of my favorite conversations in recent history. But we are also doing shows like this show on BPACC, and we just did a show last week on Clean Memphis and their kind of evolution as they have taken over Project Green Fork, and they're doing all kinds of interesting stuff on not just on litter, which is hugely important, but on food waste and sustainability and so on. It was a really interesting conversation with Janet Boscarino. I mentioned Behind the Headlines. We've recently had over on WKNO, we had Mike Palazzolo, that's this week, is the mayor of Germantown, talking about all things Germantown, but also the kind of water problem and disaster they had and planning. And I mean, it's a cautionary tale for all cities, frankly, not just Germantown. And we have coming up in a couple of weeks, Paul Young, the mayor-elect of the city of Memphis, who recently just won his election. So that is coming up in a few weeks. And we recently did a show on education. We've done a ton of shows on the election, which obviously you don't need to go back and watch or listen to, but we did a really interesting conversation with some folks who deal with education and all kinds of the services that go into particularly pre-K and elementary school education. It was great. Not for anything I did. It was just a great conversation about education in Memphis and the people really trying to work to improve kids' lives. Last bit of housekeeping. We have one of our business seminars coming up. This one is Developing Memphis. We'll be talking to the folks behind the Greyhound redevelopment, the Greyhound Station redevelopment downtown. We'll be talking to just an overall landscape of hotels, new hotels, existing hotels, tourism, all that, and where that stands, as well as the Malone Park redevelopment. That is on the 19th of October. So just a week away. That's at the Botanic Garden at 3:30. Go to Eventbrite, search for Daily Memphian. You can get tickets to our Developing Memphis seminar. But we are here with Michael Bollinger from the Bartlett Performing Arts Center. How did you get into this profession?
This profession?
Yeah.
A long time ago in a land far away in high school, my first girlfriend, Jane Gillen, was stage managing a show, and she was like, "You ought to try out." It's really audition, but we ought to try out. And I was like, no, because I didn't like it. I thought, I like John Wayne, but I didn't like being a play. And at any rate, and she kept bugging me so much. And finally she said, well, you're not going to try out because you wouldn't get a part.
Yeah.
And I'm like 16 and a half. And I was like, oh, I would get a part, and that was.
She double dared you.
Double dared you. And so she threw down the gauntlet, and I was like, well, I'm going to do that. And I did. And I got parts roles every time that I was there. And then I went to University of Missouri in St. Louis, and half of my coursework was in theater, half of my coursework was in pre-veterinary medicine. You'll love this. My work study was looking at bugs in a microscope in the entomology laboratory. I loved it. And all my extracurricular was being in plays. But then I went to Webster University in St. Louis. They have a great conservatory of theater arts. Yeah. And the month I got out of school, I started my own theater at Lake of the Ozarks. Then a year and a half later, very fortuitously, but I became the artistic director of the oldest professional theater in the state of Missouri.
Oh, wow.
Called the Lyceum Theater, and I was there like 2 solid decades. And when I got there, the theater sat 208. When I left, it sat 408. When I got there, the attendance was like 6,900. When I left, it had peaked at 35,000.
Yeah.
And this is in a small town. And then from there, I was headhunted to open a theater in Hampton Roads, Virginia, which is like Virginia Beach.
Yep.
And then I was headhunted to run a theater basically in New York City. It was right outside New York City.
Where?
South Orange, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be Penn Station, Newark, East Orange, South Orange.
Yeah.
And it was only 5 years old at that point. I actually didn't. I liked being by New York and all that. And I got a ton of actor friends.
Yeah.
And I learned so much about music because there are a ton of jazz artists around there. But I didn't like living up there. One thing, Eric, I hadn't planned for was I was like, wow, this is more money than I've ever been paid in my life. But and
this is more than I've ever spent in my life.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. I was like, well, that's not working out very well, you know.
Yeah, the ratio up there is
well, because first I'm in a higher tax bracket, and you know, second, I really didn't think the rent right outside New York would be as much as in New York, and it was like the same. I lived there for, as I've said before, and we were talking before we started. Yeah.
I lived there for 5 years, and my daughter lives there now, and I love New York, but it is just a money and is an open money pit.
Sucker, money sucker. Yeah. Well, and I started there, and I'd go there every year to audition for my theater in Missouri. But this is dating me. But when I would go there, to audition, Hell's Kitchen really was Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't like some fancy restaurant area. You were like, you would have watched yourself, you know?
Yeah. And, it's weird to go to New York. I love New York, but it's a little magical. It's a little, I don't know what. It's a little bit not the way. It was grittier before. I guess it's better because of that. But anyway.
And then I left that actually for a way lower paying job by Charlottesville, Virginia to run the Louisa Arts Center. And I came from there. I call this the land of Elvis.
Yeah.
To run the Bartlett Performing Arts Center.
Yeah.
And I like it here.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to stay. I've been here 7 years at the end of this year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And have you spent all that time? I mean, you've done various things, I think, right? You've been a producer, you've been a director, you've always run theaters. I mean,
I happen to have always run theaters.
Okay.
The title changed. Maybe it was artistic director.
Gotcha.
Maybe it was producing director. But particularly the theater in Missouri, which was sort of like Equity. Equity is the union for professional actors.
Okay.
And that's why I'd go to New York and audition. But it was sort of like Playhouse on the Square in that all we did was theater. Now, once I got away from there and went to Virginia Beach, New York, they were performing or cultural arts centers where I still had a theater component, but most of my stuff that I was doing were concerts.
Yeah.
But at the Lyceum, we do 9 shows a year. I usually direct 1 or 2, and then I would act in a couple. I mean, it was really artistic utopia. It was just great. And I was always very good about not putting myself in a role, never directing myself. You can do that in a film. You can't do that in a play very well.
Yeah.
And never anything that I couldn't do.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't cast myself, even though it's one of my favorite shows in the world, I would never cast myself to be Jean Valjean in Les Miserables because I couldn't sing it. I got a good buddy that's done it for 900 performances, but I couldn't sing it, you know. Now I could do the people that own the pub, you know.
Right.
But I couldn't do that. So and then I came here and I like it. Some people were like, well, do you think you're going to like it? I mean, it's so different because they were thinking it was so different from there. But growing up in St. Louis, and running a theater in Missouri, it's really, the people are really similar.
Yeah.
It's only 6 hours away. So no, there was nothing unusual, you know.
So, with a few minutes left here, I am curious what goes into, like you mentioned a couple shows that are coming out, the Tempest, you mentioned Crystal Gale, you mentioned the Neil Diamond show. I mean, let's say Crystal Gale, because what goes into like behind the scenes booking, getting Crystal Gayle? Because I think most people don't understand. They kind of have some confusion about how that really works.
Right. And a lot of people think that oh, that's real easy. You just call her and she comes and that's it. I probably got 20 or 25 hours invested in her show before she ever gets here, you know. But in putting together a season, because we're not the Bartlett Ballet Center, we're not the Bartlett Bluegrass Center, we're the Bartlett Performing Arts Center. So I try to do a great diversity of genres of music because what's your favorite color?
Blue.
Blue?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, mine's purple. I don't have any on today, but it is purple.
Right.
You know, but the point is people like different things.
Right.
So, and after I'm there about 1 year, I have a really good, I've had a good track record of going, what will the traffic bear?
Right.
And then grow from there. So I want a diverse season. So first is it's a lot easier than it used to be before God created computers.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
Well,
right.
because what I can do is I can go to her website, see where she's performing. And if all she does are theaters that are 5,000 seats or more, I'm not going to be able to afford her.
Right.
However,
oh, really? So that's kind of because I assume her fee is not on the website generally.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
no,
right.
No, because that's sort of like, I mean this in a polite way, but that's sort of like buying a used car because it's sort of like, you know, like I'll go, and what's the artist's asking fee? Notice what I said, asking fee.
Yeah.
And they'll go, well, it's this. And I go, well, I only have 350 seats, great theater. I can give you this if you got it routed.
So there's all that negotiation.
And probably 70% of the time I still get them because I know what I can get them down to. And I don't, and they wouldn't iterate. So there's that. But like with Crystal, so I was like, well, but in her, she's in London right now in UK performing, but in her list of shows where she's at this fall, some of them, a few, not all, but were the size of my theater.
Okay.
And I was like, so if I can get her on routing, and that means she's going from like Atlanta to here, and, you know, she's got a day off. Well, you know, because what I always say is, you know, instead of just having a day off and staying in the hotel, why don't you come to my theater? We'll treat you really well. Yep. And, you know, so that's hers. But then once you even say yes, then you've got everything to figure out behind the scenes: hotel, sound, blah, 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 hospitality.
Yeah.
And most of them are pretty nice to deal with. Most of them are.
Yeah.
I love this because it's Crystal Gayle, right? And her manager / husband is named Billy Crystal. You know, I thought that was funny, you know, and, but I was so pleased to get her because she really is an icon of folk music. And then the very next weekend, these are in November, is Henry Cho. He's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
He just was inducted into the Grand Ole Opry this year.
Yeah.
You're going, what up with that? You know, but he's only the second comedian inducted into the Grand Ole Opry and the first Asian American inducted into the Grand Ole Opry. And anyway, both of those are sold out. I'm so happy, you know.
We're just about out of time. I always ask people, and it's interesting when I do people who are in the business type of business you're in, the first concert you ever attended.
That I ever what?
You ever attended?
Oh, attended. Well, I actually don't hate to say it.
No, you shouldn't hate it.
I really liked him a lot. John Denver.
Nice.
When John Denver was big.
Was it in Missouri?
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good one. That's a first.
It's not even there anymore.
Yeah.
Called the Arena. That's where they used to play like hockey.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
For people, we're out of time, but Michael Bollinger, thanks for being here. People can just, search for Bartlett Performing Arts Center. You can get the full schedule of all the things that go through the spring, buy your tickets online. But that is all the time we have this week.
That's great.
A reminder that the Sidebar airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30. If you missed any of the show today, you can go to the Daily Memphian site, WYXR, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.